Before we start, a word of caution. As you know, STARS provides pre-hospital care for critically ill and injured patients who have sustained severe trauma or debilitating illnesses. It's what we do. As such, some of the details in this podcast may be difficult for some listeners. The STARS mission being explored this season involves graphic descriptions of physical injuries to a youth. Psychological impacts are also detailed. The patient's family and supporters have generously allowed us to tell this story as a personalized insight into STARS.
And for that, we are genuinely grateful. The community and everyone else who was involved welcomed us with open arms to help us tell this story. Having spent time with about 20 people researching it and recording interviews on the phone, virtually, in studio, and right at the scene of the incident, we can tell you this. Our conversations were raw and candid, and as such, some of the details uncomfortable. For this podcast, we've endeavored to tell the story accurately without being too sensational. Still, listener discretion is advised.
Star 11 Link Center, you're on preload for a scene call 13 nautical miles northwest of Rostern in Laird.
Link Center, Star 11, copy, somebody with it.
We have a 16-year-old male who was trapped under a riding lawnmower. His whole body is trapped, possible lung puncture, behind the arena in the middle of the field. Their ALS is 25 minutes.
It was like nothing I've ever seen before.
You know, tell my mom and my brother that I love them, and it was like, oh man, he's gonna be gone here.
11 or so years as a firefighter and first responder, that was probably my most traumatic call.
And I thought to myself that I am burying my kid. He's in a million pieces, knowing that there's 3 blades underneath that mower deck.
From my 30 years of experience, when somebody is trapped like that and very hypotensive and with difficulty breathing, you know that they only have about 10 minutes left to live.
From STARS, this is Mission Ready, Season 2, presented by ARC Resources. Episode 1, Trapped Under a Lawnmower.
Star 11 Medical.
Hey guys, it's from the Link Center. Just regarding this call in Laird, it's a quick flight for you guys. You're about 16-minute flight.
Welcome to Mission Ready, presented by ARC Resources. This STARS podcast breaks down, in detail, one mission each season to give you a stronger understanding of how we provide critical care anywhere and what happens before and after the mission. I'm Deborah Tetley.
And I'm Lyle Aspinall. We have the pleasure of being your host for this podcast.
In our second season of Mission Ready, we're breaking down a STARS call from the summer of 2022 that happened in the village of Laird, Saskatchewan, when a harrowing incident left a teenager, Drayden Woolman, critically injured and fighting for his life. You'll meet many people who were there from the very beginning. His boss who found him and made the initial call, to his mom, his friends, and the local emergency responders who helped along the way. You'll learn about how our network of allies enables us to provide critical care anywhere.
You'll also meet all 4 STARS crew members who were on duty, plus the off-duty STARS paramedic who attended, a call taker at the STARS Emergency Link Center more than 650 kilometers away, and the transport physician who guided the care. For STARS flight paramedic Glenn Pilon, this would be one of the most horrific calls in the team's combined 40-plus years of critical care experience.
Pediatric calls are some of the toughest calls to deal with because they have their whole life ahead of them, right?
Almost everything about July 19th, 2022 in Laird, Saskatchewan was typical. The tiny village was quiet, no hustle or bustle. The sun was high in the sky, beating down, and the air was hot and thick. Students were enjoying summer vacation, hanging with friends, or working odd jobs. Residents were relaxing on their decks, some were counting down the hours until the end of the workday, or simply toiling in the garden. The dog days of summer were on the horizon.
Yeah, just a beautiful sunny day here in Saskatchewan. Not a cloud in the sky, and absolutely gorgeous, warm day.
We say almost typical because what happened just after the lunch hour was far from it, and the events that followed rocked this village of 275 residents. Laird is located in central Saskatchewan, about 67 kilometers north of the city of Saskatoon via Highway 12, and about an hour southwest of Prince Albert. It's in the Saskatchewan River Valley and sits on the traditional lands of Stony Knoll First Nation. There's an arena, a baseball diamond, one school, and a handful of businesses, including a hotel, a grocery shop, and insurance office. Not far from the municipal office, there's a lawnmower shop, which at one time was the manufacturing facility for the lawnmower type involved in this incident. There are a few new homes on the edge of town, and there's an abundance of green space surrounding a playground. The closest hospital is in the neighboring town of Rosthern, a 20-minute drive, and the closest trauma center is in Saskatoon. A welcome sign at the edge of the village proclaims, "The community that pulls together."
Then 16-year-old Drayden Woolman was hired by the village of Laird to mow lawns for the summer. Not only had his older brother and his mother both done the same job before him, it was also his first job, and he was saving up to buy a car. He was in his second week working for the village, beginning his shift around 8 a.m. He was slated to finish by about mid-afternoon that day. Drayden's mom, Christine, remembers her son's enthusiasm as he headed off to work, just a short walk from the family home.
It was a Tuesday, and Drayden was so excited because Drayden was starting his first day of his second week of work, and he was very excited. And he was pretty much running out the door. I was going to say to him, be careful, but he ran out so fast.
Drayden's boss was Warren Peters, the village foreman. It's a role he's held for almost 3 decades.
It's public works, and basically for our small town, it's basically everything to do with taking care of the town. Any maintenance work, grading roads, plowing snow. There's the water and sewer work that just take care of everything like that. So, I mean, we get help in summer, like student help for mowing grass and things like that. Just anything that you could think of that needs to be done in a little town, that's my responsibility, yeah.
On this day, Warren and Drayden spent a few minutes in the morning discussing the teen's responsibility for his shift before Warren headed out of town.
I needed to do some other work out at we pump water from the North Saskatchewan River up to town here, which is about 12 kilometers away. And that was what I was busy at that day, so I knew I wasn't going to be back for lunch, and just kind of we were making sure he was knew what he had to do that day. So then once we went over all that, and he went off with the mower, and I went off doing my work.
Not long after, Drayden's friend, Carly Dennis, popped by to say hello.
So I'm 14. I go to Waldheim School. I've been friends with Drayden basically since kindergarten.
She was in grade 9 at the time and had lived in Laird her whole life. Her dad is the fire chief. She's a bubbly, friendly, outgoing girl who thinks she might follow in her father's footsteps one day.
Obviously, after Drayden's incident, I kind of took interest in thinking maybe I should be a first responder or join the fire department like my dad did.
I can see why after meeting your dad and a lot of the other people who responded to this incident. What do you remember about that day?
So in the morning, I was doing some yard work at the school. I was specifically out by the swing set, and sometime around 10:15, I saw him mowing the grass for the baseball diamond. And after I was done, I rode my quad over kind of where the baseball diamond is, and me and him talked. We just caught up on stuff, how his summer was going, what's going on. And then he mentioned how he was off work at 2. So he asked if we wanted to hang out, and I said, yeah.
The teens had been friends for many years, as is the case with many of the kids in this small town.
So, Carly, your name came up a few times when we were looking into this story. Carly was going to meet Drayden that day, that kind of thing. Just tell us more about your friendship with Drayden.
So me and him in school, he's a grade higher than me. So we wouldn't hang out all the time, but we would talk a lot in school. Because in Laird, which is where we had our K-8, we would talk a lot. We were basically in the same classroom, just different grades. So, but he obviously had his friends. So when we were younger, we would still talk, but not that much. But when my parents started traveling and I'd stay over at his house, we hung out and talked a lot. And we would even hang out over the summer. We'd take lawn tractors and go riding around town. So that was fun.
But today, Drayden would be riding a different lawn tractor, the commercial grade mower provided to him by his employer to cut grass around town. It's one the village had been using for many years, a zero-turn hydrostatic unit with a pair of levers to independently control left and right side forward and backward movement. It would effectively spin on a dime if one lever was pushed forward and the other pulled back. At the front of this particular one was mounted a 72-inch mower deck. As Warren explains, it was designed and built to be a rugged machine.
It's a fairly high-powered, it's a commercial mower, so yeah, it's not something you'd normally have in your own yard unless you're on a large acreage or a farm or something like that. So they use them for golf courses and things like that too. So yeah, small brush even and stuff like that. They'd cut stuff like that. So yeah. I mean, mainly it's meant for grass, but I mean it's a pretty heavy-duty machine. Yeah.
By early afternoon, Drayden, who didn't stop for a lunch break on this day, paused to refuel the mower, then set out to complete the final bit of his shift. His plan was to cut the grass behind the town arena, adjacent to the baseball diamond, before heading home to meet Carly. Eventually, Warren returned to the village office around the time Carly dropped by Drayden's house to meet up as planned. But there was no answer when she knocked on his door.
So the arena is just over there. Drayden's house is just currently over there. And then
Carly was showing us the village streets that she recalled walking down a year earlier while looking for Drayden.
I thought he would be showering, changing or something, so I waited a bit and I kind of looked around and listened to see if I could hear a lawnmower. And even while I was walking home by my house, I was trying to see if I could hear. But before I walked down Main Street, because there's shortcuts where the baseball diamond is that leads behind the arena, and I was thinking if I should take a shortcut or if I should go down Main Street. And I thought to myself, but I went down Main Street because I thought I'd run into him on the road or something. I was looking around everywhere, but I didn't see him. So
she headed to the village office and ran into Warren.
When I got back to the shop, and I noticed that he hadn't been back with the mower, and so I thought, maybe he got carried away or just lost track of time, and so I didn't think too much of it right away.
And then as I passed the village office, which is where Warren works, I was thinking if I should go knock on the door, because that was when I saw Drayden's bike. And then Warren walked out of the door, and that was when I just walked up and said, "Hey, have you seen Drayden? Do you know where he is?"
And I said, "Well, no, I he should be mowing grass around where kind of ballpark arena area is where this happened."
And then he said he'd go look for him, and then I said, "Okay, I'll go home." And then when on my way back, I just kept trying to listen for a lawnmower, but I couldn't, so I just went home.
And so I went off to that area to see where he was, and I, just looking around, I didn't see anything right away. And you can usually hear that mower going, and I couldn't hear anything either.
Warren was not prepared for what he saw next. He didn't spot Drayden right away, but he did see that his hat was lying on the field along with some debris. But that wasn't all.
So I just went to the mower to check it out, and that's when I found him there. So that was, the last thing I was expecting for sure. And, that picture will stick with me for a long time,
There was Drayden on his back, trapped, almost completely under the lawnmower deck. Only his head and right arm were visible out the left side of the machine. One of Drayden's shoes was in the grass several feet away. The mower wasn't running. Drayden was conscious and alert, but visibly fading in and out.
It was just so unreal. It was almost like someone just set up a scene that didn't really make sense to me right away. It didn't click in my head that this is the first thing I actually thought was, what are you doing fooling around,
Yeah, am I getting pumped right now? Is this a scene? Yeah.
But I mean, that didn't take long to know that, okay, we got to be calling 911 here, and then just, in that whole time, just kind of staying with him there. His one arm was out, and he was holding up his arm, and I hold his hand there and tried to talk to him and keep him alert a bit. And he seemed to be fairly alert at the time. He could tell me he didn't want me to move the mower because he thought you know, it might cause some more damage. He thought maybe he had a punctured lung or something, so he was, you know, that aware. And we still don't really know how long he was there. Could have been an hour, you know, or could have been half an hour. It's really hard to say.
What was clear to him is that Drayden needed help fast. In our first conversation with Warren on the phone, he recalled making that initial plea for an emergency response.
Right away then I was like, okay, I got to call 911 here. And just saying that we had this guy here that needed help right away, that he was caught under a mower. And I maybe didn't even explain that great, but just trying to get the message across that we needed the ambulance there quick. So yeah, just going through that, it's kind of a blur now what I remember what I was. So we just, I was, and then there on the phone, and then I was down beside him there and just kind of was holding on his hand and just kind of saying, hang in there, bud, hang in there, we're getting you help here right away. At the same time, he was, we were talking a little bit that way, and he would say something like, tell my mom and my brother that I love them and stuff like that. And to me, it was like, oh man, he's gonna be gone here. Like, I didn't think he was even gonna make it. But he kept, I kept trying to keep him alert, because it did seem like he'd want to kind of fade out a little bit here and there. And I didn't know what to do. I was just so glad, when the paramedics started showing up.
While emergency responders from Laird, Rosthern, and nearby Waldheim began rushing toward the scene, an off-duty STARS crew member who lived in a neighboring town was alerted to the situation.
My name is Daniel Koblek. I'm the Clinical Operations Manager for STARS Saskatoon Base, but more importantly, I'm a flight paramedic here in Saskatoon.
Those were titles he held when we interviewed him for the story. Daniel has since moved on from STARS, but at the time, in addition to his regular work here, he was also a volunteer first responder in his home community, which happened to be near Laird, where Drayden was trapped. So he knew most of the emergency responders in that area.
I know I can hear from the team from time to time. I'm integrated with our local department there and have a good working relationship with them. So they know that if the call is a high acuity, they can always reach out for support if I'm not physically on the call with them. And they do from time to time.
And this was one of those times. When he got the call, Daniel and his wife just so happened to be on their way to volunteer at Field of Stars, a major fundraising event for us through the Egg in Motion Farming Expo.
I was actually I just left home to head to Field of Stars, and I had a first responder call from our local fire department that they were responding to Drayden's call. I looked at the call, and the details were very vague at the time of call. But shortly after, I received a phone call from one of our fire department members who asked if I knew how long until a helicopter would arrive. And I could tell from his voice that it wasn't a good scene at all. And I asked if he needed help, and he said we could use all the help we can get. So turned the car around
and headed back toward the scene to lend a hand. He also messaged his on-duty colleagues at the Saskatoon base moments before they began receiving information from the STARS Emergency Link Center.
Just by the nature of the call, it sounded like something that STARS might get involved with, but I wasn't too sure. So I thought I'd shoot them a text and just say, hey guys, just so you know, there's a call coming in out this way. I don't know if you'll receive a pre-alert or not, but just wanted to give them a heads up.
And now, a quick word from our Season 2 sponsor.
As Canada's third largest natural gas producer and the largest producer of condensate, ARC Resources is proud to play an important role in the responsible development of Canada's energy resources. In delivering those resources, safety is the #1 priority, always. And it's that core value that makes ARC's partnership with STARS a natural fit. It's our shared goal to ensure that everyone arrives home safely at the end of the day. Learn more about how ARC is leading the way for safe and responsible energy development at arcresources.com.
Welcome back. Flight paramedic Glenn Pelon and flight nurse Bailey Sinclair were the STARS Air medical crew who were on shift. Bailey still remembers how those early moments played out.
I had just finished my training about 3 weeks prior. So to work for STARS, you have to do some pretty intensive training. It's about a 20-week program involving a lot of in-person training as well as online training, lots of stimulation, and a lot of ride-along shifts. So we are provided this very excellent training, and then all of a sudden you're placed into the world on your own. So one of my first shifts by myself, I'm working with Glenn. That morning we had done a call. A call had gone really well. Everything was great. It was mid-afternoon, and we were sitting at the base when our manager had sent us a text just saying, hey, just going to give you a heads up. I think you're going to get a call here pretty soon. He had received a notification that there was a 16-year-old who had been run over by a lawnmower. Glenn and I had spoke about it. We obviously knew as soon as we got the information that we were going to go on this call, and we wanted to help this kid out.
Not long after Warren found Drayden, STARS was dispatched to the village of Laird for only the second time since a base was established in Saskatoon in 2012. The first mission to the village was in 2016, and while there had been other missions in nearby communities, this was only the second time we landed here.
Star 11 Link Center, you're on preload for a scene call 13 nautical miles northwest of Rostern in Laird.
Link Center Southern, copy, standby with it.
Standing by for weather.
Star 11 Medical.
Hey guys, it's Lindsay in the Link Center. Just regarding this call in Laird, it's a quick flight for you guys. You're about 16-minute flight. We have a 16-year-old male who was trapped under a riding lawnmower. His whole body is trapped, possible lung puncture. Behind the arena in the middle of the field. Their ALS is 25 minutes.
Good. We will go as long as we're extra weather.
Okay. Okay, we're sending dispatch to him. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Star 11 Link Center, you've been dispatched to the scene call in town Laird.
Copy, Link Center, dispatch to the scene call and standby for coordinates.
It wouldn't be long before STARS arrived, and in that time, Drayden lay trapped under the mower in the searing heat. Warren stayed by his side.
So I was kind of holding my hat over there to shade him a bit, and yeah, and that, and trying to talk with 911 there at the same time, and until people started showing up, because for the 911 call, our fire department and first responders must have got the call then, and so they started showing up, and just the whole timing of all that, and when people started showing up, that's just kind of almost a bit of a blur now. So, but yeah, it seemed like quite a while at first, and and just that whole thing, like, guy almost thought he was, gonna pass away right there for, some moments. So that was just, it's hard to process it at the time, like, just, yeah.
Drayden's mom, Christine, soon received a call from a fellow first responder. Christine is also a volunteer firefighter in Laird. These are roles she'd held for many years. On this day, she was working at her paying job in a nursing home. She'd raced to a lot of emergencies over the years, but this one would be different.
I went to work, and my oldest, he had a job in the city, so he was working in the city. He leaves super early. I think he got to work at like 5:30 in the morning. And then I went to work, and I was in this one person's room cleaning, and my first responder called me and told me that we were going to get a bad call with a kid with a mower behind the Laird Arena. And I said, okay. And then I got the page right away. So then I hung up, and I called Drayden's boss and asked him if it was my kid, and he said yes. And I just said, I'm on my way. And I didn't ask for any details. It just said on my page that a kid was caught in a lawnmower. That's all it said. So I knew something, but I didn't know exactly what. So I put my four-way flashers on, and I started to go.
As Christine drove, first responders arrived at Drayden's side and quickly discovered this teenager needed urgent, critical care and transport to the nearest trauma center. Minutes later, and as Daniel had predicted, the STARS Emergency Link Center, our communications and dispatch hub that you've heard actual recordings from throughout this podcast, received a request from Saskatchewan EMS to attend the scene.
While the crew in Saskatoon prepared for the mission, a crowd was gathering around Drayden. Some were onlookers from the town, while others were helpers set to work. Among the first emergency workers on scene was Gil Maraboto, a paramedic from nearby Rosthern. The moment he received the call, he and another paramedic jumped in a ground ambulance and raced to the scene. He knew STARS was on the way, so he was going to do what he could to help until then.
The call came when someone trapped under a lawnmower. That was like I don't know how that could happen, but I jumped in the ambulance and actually I was driving. I was faster than anybody's in there, so we drove over, and yeah, we found that guy under the lawnmower. That I don't know how he ended up there.
Kayla Burrell was also among the first to arrive. She and her husband Kevin were both volunteer first responders for Waldheim Fire and Rescue for about 7 years. Kayla was in her garden when she received word that she was needed. What she heard left her terrified.
My partner Phil Daku and I were first to the hall and rolled out with our ambulance, and we zipped over to Laird. It was a 7 or 8 minute drive, and I remember I was petrified because you always know that you could get this kind of call, but you don't know it until it happens. I said to Phil on the way over there, and it's not like me, I'm usually pretty calm, but I just said, Phil, I'm scared. Like, are we actually going to find what we think we're going to find?
Meanwhile, Carly Dennis, who you'll recall was the first to flag that Drayden was missing, still had no idea what has happened. She'd gone home after talking to Warren about Drayden's absence. Soon, though, she got a call from her dad, the village's fire chief.
So I walked home, I got into my house, and my dad called me and asked me where I was. And I said, I was at home, and he mentioned how there has been an incident in town and that I have to stay home. I was talking with my brother because my brother was home at the time, and he had to leave for work shortly after. So I said, if the incident was in town, so if you see anything, just let me know. And he, as he was on the access road just outside of town, he called me and said, I seen it. I didn't see who it was, but all I know is that it was a kid on a mower. And I just instantly knew it was Drayden because he's the only one on a lawnmower in town. After that, I ran down the back alley to see if I can spot the STARS helicopter, the ambulance, police, or anything. And as I got to where the bar is, I seen all the police cars roll up. I see his grandpa. I see just everything piling up into behind the arena. We start crying. So I walked back, and all I could do was wait and just pray that he'd be okay.
When Drayden's mom, Christine, arrived, having driven from her job in Rosthern, the grassy area behind the arena was bustling.
And then when I got there, I saw that Waldheim's trucks were there and the ambulance. So I thought, okay, good. There's somebody here helping. And then I parked beside my mom, and my mom was crying. And I told my mom, I'll be right back. I love you. It'll be okay. And I ran past the fire truck, and then that's when I saw Drayden's body. All I saw was just his head. His whole body was underneath that mower deck. It was like, I was not expecting to see that, and I broke down. I started to cry, and I thought to myself that I am burying my kid. He's in a million pieces, knowing that there's 3 blades underneath that mower deck.
Next time on Mission Ready.
So I put my hand underneath and feel like that's something like hard, like the blade, yeah, the blade is inside his chest. And I felt his arm, his left arm was in 2 pieces. Okay, that's not good.
So the challenge now is, how do you remove the lawnmower from the patient without removing the foreign body that is stuck in the body?
Mission Ready, presented by ARC Resources, is produced in-house by me, Deborah Tetley.
And me, Lyle Aspinall. Watch video clips from this season at stars.ca/missionready.
Mission Ready contains original theme music by Kaya Gamble, whose dad was a longtime Stars pilot and whose mom was once a transport physician. Check her out at kayagamble.com. Please rate and review Mission Ready wherever you found it, and be sure to tell your friends about it. Also, check out Season 1.
Want to be a STARS ally? Get involved and support our mission by visiting stars.ca. Until next time, thanks for listening.